unconditional and immediate ceasefire a victory for the U.S.?
Tomorrow?
Yes.
Well, tomorrow we'll see. I say, I don't know where that comes from. It's sort of not a good question. I would say that tomorrow, all I want to do is set the table for the next meeting, which should happen shortly. I'd like to see it happen very quickly, very shortly after this meeting. I'd like to see it actually happen maybe in Alaska, where we just stay because it's so much easier. But I think that it's going to be very interesting. We're going to find out where everybody stands, and I'll know within the first 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, or 5 minutes, like we tend to find out, whether or not we're going to have a good meeting or a bad meeting. And if it's a bad meeting, it'll end very quickly. And if it's a good meeting, we're going to end up getting peace in the pretty near future.
Very interesting comments just a short time ago from President Trump as he prepares for this meeting tomorrow with Vladimir Putin in Alaska. It's going to happen around this time. We're going to get a lot of information around this time tomorrow. We're going to have live coverage for you in New York throughout the course of this. And he says, trying to end this war in Ukraine is, quote, like chess. It's a very complicated scenario. We're also hearing from President Putin for the first time since the announcement of tomorrow's meeting. Watch this.
The stage we are at with the current American administration, which, as everyone knows, is making, in my opinion, quite energetic and sincere efforts to stop the hostilities, stop the crisis, and reach agreements that are of interest to all parties involved in this conflict.
Okay, so there is the setting of the table. With that, we bring in former NATO Supreme Allied Commander, retired four-star General Philip Breedlove. General Breedlove, thank you for being here today. You hear what both of these presidents have to say. They have met several times in the first Trump administration. Putin has been the leader of Russia for 25 years. He's had many, many meetings with U.S. presidents over the years. What are your thoughts? What do you want us to understand about what we should keep in mind for tomorrow?
Well, thanks for having me on, Martha. And I think it's important to say that no matter which side of the aisle you sit on, we want to see the American president succeed in these talks because we need to bring this war to an end. But we need to bring it to a durable end, not an end that will invite and guarantee future contact or future war down the lines. And frankly, that's what we've seen out of Mr. Putin over and over again in the past.
So I just want to put up on the screen, this is the Russian delegation that is expected to be there. They're bringing in all of his top advisors. We're still waiting to learn, and we expect to learn early tomorrow. We understand the president's going to be leaving about 6 a.m. from the White House tomorrow morning, and that's pretty much when we're going to know who is attending this with him. There's huge implications here, obviously, for history. We talk a lot about what Ukraine wants and what Russia wants out of this. But I think it's pretty clear that Vladimir Putin wants to reconstruct the Russia pre-Soviet Union. He wants to put it all back together. Imperial Russia is really his dream. And obviously, that is not what places like Ukraine or Poland or all of the countries on his border, all of whom are in NATO except for Ukraine, want. How do you see this big picture in terms of power and geopolitical structure?
Well, you got very close to it. As most people call this war 3.5 years old, it's 11 years old. It started in the spring of 14 when I was the Supreme Allied Commander Europe, and it hasn't stopped since. And he has given us several documents across this time that lay out his goals. The two documents he gave us at the beginning of this last 3.5 year part of the war basically outline what you just said. He wants to totally rearrange the security infrastructure of Eastern Europe to favor Russia and to be resetting very similar to the Warsaw Pact time. And that is simply unacceptable to the countries of the West.
So let's put up this map because it shows the area that has been occupied so far, because we know that regaining territory is a piece-by-piece process. And as you say, he took Crimea in 2014, Donetsk and Luhansk, pieces of those as well. Then the shaded area has all been taken in this war since 2022. And the red area is what they are calling New Russia, that they would like to achieve from part of these talks. What would you say to President Trump, given your experience in NATO, as he looks at this meeting tomorrow?
So in 11 years, Russia has taken about 19% of Ukraine. And it would be interesting for you to plot all of the land that Russia took in the first part of this last 3.5 years and how much of that Ukraine has regained back. So Ukraine has pushed them back to these lines. And so what we don't want to do, Mr. Putin is unable to take that extra land. In 14 months, he's lost 400,000 men, and he's only taken about 1% of Ukraine in those 14 months. So he wants the West, specifically the United States, to give him what he cannot take. And we have to draw the line. We should give him no more land, and we should refuse to recognize the land that he has taken as Russian.
So you're talking a hard line with him at this meeting, and pointing that he is in a vulnerable position. He has lost an awful lot. His economy is in tatters, and there are a lot of indications that his people are done with this fight. So we'll see where it goes. General Breedlove, always great to have you. Thank you very much, sir.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.